If you're on Social Security, disability benefits, or food stamps, pay attention to this video. Elon Musk has a plan and is going to gut Social Security, Medicare, food stamps, and other programs. I have the receipts. Let's get right to it. So, what is this plan that I'm talking about? Well, you may have heard that President Trump has appointed Elon Musk to this Department of Government Efficiency and is supposed to trim $2 trillion from the federal budget. Now, here's the thing: it is impossible to cut $2 trillion from the federal budget without touching Social Security, Medicare, food stamps, and other important programs that are critical to seniors and people of low income. And I'll explain that in a second. And then there are 5 proposals in front of President Trump to change Social Security, to reform Social Security in 2025. I am going to explain all 5 plans in detail, and then you decide which plan you think the president should follow. But first, if you're new to this channel, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, because all we do is bring you the latest news and updates about anything in and out of Congress that is going to affect your Social Security and other benefits. So let's get started. So here is where everything starts, and I'm going to explain it in detail. But let's look at this graph to begin. Social Security is the largest part of the federal budget, followed by health, which includes Medicaid, and then Medicare. And then number 5 is income security, which includes food stamps, unemployment, and other programs that benefit people of low income and the middle class. Now, the entire federal budget, the entire federal budget has 15 items that are the top of the list in terms of spending. So let's take a good look at this, and I will explain why it is impossible to get to 2 trillion without getting Social Security, Medicare, and food stamps. So these are the top 15 items on the federal budget: Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, income security, which includes SNAP benefits, housing assistance, etc. And so here is what the budget looks like. The government is bringing in $4 trillion. It is spending $6 trillion. And so Elon Musk wants to bridge that gap and cut 2 trillion to balance the budget. But here's the thing. If you look at the things that are mandatory for them to spend, Social Security, Medicare, health, income security, they form a bulk of the budget. So 25% of the budget is really available to be cut. And that does not equate to 2 trillion. So to get to 2 trillion, you would have to cut Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, other health programs, income security. I'll explain all that in detail. So, as you may have been paying attention to the news, Elon Musk has this position now as an unofficial government position, Department of Government Efficiency, and it's been in the news because he has big ambition to cut $2 trillion from the federal budget. It sounds lofty. It sounds like a good goal, but here's the thing. You don't have $2 trillion to cut from the budget unless you're going to cut entitlement programs and Social Security, if you're not going to touch defense and you're not going to touch the interest payment. So I explain what that means. Meanwhile, the whole Department of Government Efficiency got off to a rough start because Vivek Ramaswamy is in disagreement with Elon Musk. Vivek wants to focus on technology efficiency. Elon wants to cut things from the government. And so they have this disagreement, and Vivek has exited. So now it's Elon Musk left to implement his plan of cutting $2 trillion and gutting a lot of programs. Now, a lot of people think that this is a noble effort, and it is. There's a lot of government inefficiency. There's a lot of government waste. There's a lot of programs that are redundant. But $2 trillion does not exist without hurting people, and I am walking you through that. They now have an official website. The Department of Government Efficiency is our official U.S. government website. So let's look at why you cannot get $2 trillion without hurting Social Security and Medicare. Here's the federal budget. $4.4 trillion comes in, and then we spend $6.134 trillion. and then there's a deficit. So the deficit is around 2 trillion. And so I think Elon got his number from knowing that the deficit is around 2.7 trillion. So that is what he thinks he want to cut, which makes sense until you get to the hood, until you begin to look underneath and realize that there is more to it than meets the eye. So where do the government get money? Individual income taxes form 50% of total revenue that comes into the federal government. Payroll taxes form 37%. And then corporate income tax. If you think about it, corporations are huge. They have a huge presence in American life, and yet they only pay 9% of total revenue that the government gets. But we give them such an oversized influence over the government, and they only bring in 9% of revenue. And then other sources, you've heard about tariffs a lot. The president has been talking about changing the whole dynamics to bring in tariffs and eliminate income taxes. Well, tariffs and other forms of custom duties bring in only 4% of income right now. So it's going to be a huge task to reform the whole system and have tariffs take over income taxes. That is going to be a tall order. So this is what it looks like. Majority comes from income taxes, payroll taxes, and then corporate taxes, and then other sources from the 4%. So as I mentioned, the federal budget is $6.34 trillion. And these are the top items that come into play. So if you really think about it, if you want to cut 2 trillion in this budget, you can see if you add even the bottom 5, you're not even going to get $1 trillion. So that's what I'm saying. You cannot cut 2 trillion without going to the top items, which is where the money is. This is another visual of what everything looks like. So if you look at something like commerce and housing, transportation, veterans benefits, all those, if you add all that up, you're still not at even 700 billion. If you want to cut trillions, you have to go where the money is. So people are beginning to realize this. It's not just me. NBC News came out with this and said Elon Musk says Doge probably won't find 2 trillion in the federal budget. It's true, but he keeps pressing on because he thinks he can get it, and it is through cutting programs that are very, very essential to low-income populations. So I wanted to walk you through and dig deeper into what this looks like. Social Security, 1.354 trillion. Health, which includes Medicaid, children health insurance, Food and Drug Administration activities, Center for Disease Controls, National Institute of Health, all these agencies, 8.89 billion. And then you have Medicare, 8.48 billion. And then you have defense. So if you really think about it, out of the 6.1 trillion, defense is 820 billion, and interest payment on our loans is 658 billion. If you add those two together, you're almost approaching 1.5 trillion. So if the politicians are saying that they're not going to cut defense, they're not going to cut interest payment because they want to maintain their credit rating, because they like to borrow money and spend it on things that, they are not bringing enough income in. So they borrow the money to spend on the things that they want to do. So they're not going to cut interest payment. They're not going to cut national defense. So 1.5 trillion of the budget is untouchable. So now, where are you going to get the money? The money is not in transportation. The money is not in commerce and housing credit. The big money is not in community and regional development. The big money is at the top: Social Security, health, Medicare, and income security, which includes unemployment compensation, supplemental security assistance program, which is food stamps or SNAP, supplemental security income, which is SSI benefits, temporary assistance for needy families, federal retirement program excluding Social Security, housing assistance, and refundable tax credit. This income security section is what keeps low-income people afloat, and it's 775 billion. So when people tell you they're going to cut 2.7 trillion, this is where they are looking. They are looking at veterans benefits and services. That's a good chunk of money. They are looking at income security. They're not going to touch defense. They're not going to touch net income, net interest income. So now they're going to touch Medicare, health, and Social Security, because that is where you're going to find money to trim. So I am showing you this because I want you to understand how this works. In Congress, there's something called mandatory spending and discretionary spending. Mandatory spending means that they don't have to approve the spending every year. It is automatic, and it includes Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. And it forms about 2/3 of federal spending. Think about that. 2/3 of federal spending is in Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. So if we want to cut such a big chunk of money, those are the places to look. And discretionary spending, doesn't require approval. Discretionary spending is ones that they have control over, and that requires them to approve it every single year. So mandatory spending is about 62% of the total spending. Discretion is about 28%. Discretionary spending is where they have a lot of control, and then interest makes up the rest. But they're not going to go and touch things that are in the discretionary spending because some of it is things they don't want to touch. So what am I saying with this video? What I'm trying to tell you is that there is no way to get $2 trillion out of the federal budget without touching programs that affect seniors, programs that affect people on low income, and programs that affect people on disability. And so here is where we end up. $2 trillion can only be found in these big programs. And if they are not telling you this, and they're making you think there is some hidden money in the federal government that they're going to go look around and expose and bring you $2 trillion, it's a big lie. The data does not support it because the facts are in front of us, and where the money is programs that benefit people that are vulnerable, seniors that have paid into Social Security, etc. So let me go to the programs that President Trump is looking at to reform Social Security in 2025. Congress is right now negotiating proposals to present to the president, and there are 5 proposals Republicans are looking at the table. I'm going to explain them, and then you decide what you think is the best proposal for them to adopt to fix Social Security, because Social Security needs to be fixed. Because by 2033, the trust fund is going to run out of money, and then all of a sudden, you're going to get an automatic 20 to 25% cut in your benefits if nothing is done. So these are the 5 proposals that the president is going to be provided with, or that Congress is currently looking at to reform Social Security to extend its lifespan. The first one is raising the retirement age. Current Republican proposals suggest raising full retirement age from 67 to 69, similar to Reagan's previous increase from 65 to 67. The financial impact is that this change would address 20 to 30% of the projected shortfall, making it a significant solution. Critics point out that many people in physical labor cannot work in their 60s, making this particularly burdensome on certain workers. The proposal would disproportionately affect lower income workers who have shorter lifespan or life expectancies and in physically demanding jobs. So let me know what you think. Proposal number 1 that they're looking at is increasing the retirement age from 67 to 69, because when President Reagan raised it from 65 to 67, it slowed down how much money was being taken out of the Social Security system, and it did save the system for a long period of time. So they are trying to repeat the same thing again. Second, they want to slow down COLA. Your cost of living adjustment is already tiny. It was 2.5% this year, 3.2% last year. Now they want to even take it even lower, because COLA, believe it or not, comes from the Social Security pot. So if they slow down how much increase you're getting, then it slows down how much money they are taking as Social Security increases every year. So this change will address about 30% of the long-term funding gap. So it's a good chunk of money. Unlike other proposals, this will affect all beneficiaries, and the impact of reduced COLA would actually affect seniors in a negative way, because seniors are struggling. Some are struggling to pay their Medicaid premiums, because when they get their Social Security increase, the Medicaid premiums take it away. They're getting cuts to their food stamps. And so lowering or slowing down the COLA increase is further going to impact seniors negatively. Proposal number 3 is payroll tax changes. Currently, you may be aware that Social Security is funded through payroll taxes, Employees pay 6.2%, employers pay 6.2%. Combined is 12.4. The goal is to increase the 6.2 to 6.5 over 6 years. There is strong bipartisan support to this. 85% of Republicans support it. 88% of Democrats make it a politically viable option. The change will affect all wage earners, spreading the burden across the entire workforce rather than targeting specific groups. Let me know what you think about this, because the next change is what I think is the most realistic that Congress should attack first, which is removing the income gap. So you may not know this, but previously there were 2 tiers of Social Security taxes. So for this year, if you made up to $176,100, you will pay Social Security taxes on everything you make up to $176,100. So let's say that this is here. Previously, there was another limit, which was $400,000 and above. You pay taxes on that. Congress eliminated this $400,000 above. And so what has happened is that only people who make up to $176,000 pay Social Security taxes. Everything else above that doesn't pay anything to the Social Security tax system. And this has drained the Social Security system or robbed it of needed income, especially when the population base that is contributing to Social Security is also shrinking. And then now the income cap has been eliminated. And so you have people making more than $176,100 don't have to pay taxes on that. And so the burden is on lower and the middle class, and then the people who are in the upper class don't have to contribute any income beyond $176,000 to Social Security benefits. So this new legislation suggests that imposing a tax on anybody above $250,000, they're gonna build it up from $176,000 to $250,000 and above, and you're gonna pay taxes on all of it. So I think that's a great idea. This will only affect the highest 4% of population while potentially expanding the solvency by 76 years. Now, listen to what I'm saying here. If they implement this new legislation imposing Social Security taxes on earned income above $250,000, creating a donut hole between the cap and the thresholds. Well, what that means is that if you pay $176,000, if you make $176,000, you pay Social Security taxes, and then if you make $250,000 and above, you pay Social Security taxes on anything above that. It kind of shrinks what they call the donut hole, because previously that hole was $400,000 and above. Now they're going to bring it to $250,000 and above. Doing that alone, which will only affect 4%, the highest 4% of earners of the population, it will extend the Social Security Trust Fund solvency by 75 years. The proposal also includes taxing income from those making over $20,000 in revenue. So here's what that means. Previously, when you raise the income for Social Security taxes, let's say you bring back the $400,000 and above, the rich will just go and earn their taxes or their income through other means, like investment income, so that they pay capital gains tax, and then they cannot deal with the Social Security tax system at all. Instead of getting their money through wages, they will just get their income through investment income. And so they avoid having to pay Social Security taxes, because you don't have to pay Social Security taxes on investment income, like dividends. So what this proposal is saying is that it's going to catch all that, so that people cannot game the system and avoid Social Security taxes. It will save the Social Security system and extend its lifespan 75 years. Let me know what you think. Here's an example. If they kept the $400,000 and above, somebody making $500,000 today will pay $10,000 in taxes, in Social Security taxes, based on last year's limits. If the 400,000 cap was brought back, then they're going to pay anything above 400,000 to 500, and so they will pay an additional tax, and the total taxes they would have paid will be 31,000 instead of 10,000. So think about that. They would have paid $10,000, but now because the cap has been brought back, they will pay 31,000. That is the difference in how much money was lost when Congress got rid of the top limit. And then the fifth proposal is to means test Social Security. Means testing would evaluate income levels to determine benefit eligibility, potentially reducing benefit for higher income retirees. The approach could reduce the program shortfall by 11%, providing a significant but not complete solution. Polling shows a high rating from Republicans, 90%, and Democrats, 95%, 94%, due to the targeted nature of these proposals. The proposal will primarily affect the top 20% of income earners, preserving full benefits for the majority of Social Security recipients. So let me know what you think. Which of these proposals do you think is the best solution to fix Social Security? And do you think Elon Musk can get his $2 trillion out of the federal budget without cutting Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, food stamps, and other programs that are vital to low income and seniors? Let me hear from you in the comments. I'll be doing another live bringing to you Social Security taxes and what President Trump is planning to do to eliminate it and what that means for your benefits and the entire Social Security system. So thank you for joining me. Until I see you in my next live, I appreciate you being here and staying with me and contributing in your comments to what I have to say. Thanks.